and slip you some boogie we will for the Fringe FM. Coming at you live from the middle of nowhere, the center of everywhere, here once again to give you yet another dose of conversational boogie. This is Shift Happens. Woo! Crazy week. Stirring the pot, as they say. More on that in a second. Do follow us on Twitter. Oh, well, thank you, Liz. I love you, too. Do follow us on Twitter at Shift Happens Pod. You can follow me, Gigi, over at GGRabbit1. And, of course, we've got our co-host here, as per usual. You can follow him on Twitter at Neon Surfer, and his name is Darren McClure. What's happening, Darren?
Me, hey, just hanging out, rocking and rolling with my friends on the Shift Happens podcast.
All right, fantastic. And then, of course, I think, as per usual, we're also joined by our associate producer, Brad Harris. What's going on, Brad?
Yo, what up, brother? Just chilling, checking everything out from the back seat. How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Talking to me?
And ladies and gentlemen, I almost forgot. Also joining us this evening, OG status. You all know her, you love her, and you've missed her. None other. You can follow her on Twitter at Empress Cortana. That's right. Cortana is back. What's happening, Cortana?
Oh, man. A lot of shift is happening right now, and I am so glad that I am able to be back.
Yes, a warm welcome back indeed. It's been too long. You've had some cameos here and there.
Yeah.
But
not a full show, and I'm really excited. It's Tricia Eastman on the Psychedelic Renaissance, and, well, I've been renaissancing it up over the last few months.
Yeah, and I think many of us here, if not all of us, are very well versed with the healing properties of psychedelics, and that's something we're definitely going to be getting into tonight. And with Tricia Eastman, she's got a lot of cool stuff going on, and a lot of good insight, and because there's so much misconception on psychedelics, and there's also a lot of misuse of psychedelics, and so we're going to clear some of that up.
And also a lot of fear, I think,
Yeah, and there is a lot of fear, isn't there?
Yeah, and I hope that someone who is perhaps maybe we're not advocating drug use, but who knows if you could go down to Costa Rica, wink, wink, and go have some ayahuasca.
Yeah, no fear. It's just, it's just another way to perceive the reality of the universe as we know it.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Gotta raise that vibration.
And not only that, it's just a way to really, it just ejects your ego from the equation. It allows you to observe yourself and observe your past and present and potential future from a very objective standpoint. And it's just like it's just like a Control-Alt-Delete for your brain and consciousness, and it's such a powerful tool. And Tricia, who we're going to have on here in a few minutes, she leads all kinds of different psychedelic retreats all around the world where it's not illegal. Not only is it not illegal, but they actually, it's well welcomed in these countries.
It's culture, pretty much like it's culture down there in the place of the Amazon and Central America and some Native American, with peyote and other psychedelic substances here in the Americas. Like, it's just the way of life,
Yeah, and there's so many different positive aspects to these psychedelics, and a lot of people, when they hear psychedelics, are like, oh, they're going to talk about drugs, whatever. Like, no. Stick around. Wait for Tricia to come on, and let's really get into what they really are, the origins of them, which nobody really knows, but the origins of its use anyway, and how it can be used properly, and what can be done with it. But before we get to Tricia Eastman, so last weekend we did a live B-Sides and Rarities episode with Mike Gentile from the Majungas band, which they have a new record out, called The Ancient Astronaut Theory, which they also have another new record coming out in the next month or so that's going to be ready in time for Alien Con, which they will be at as well, and hopefully we'll be at that one too. And so we're going to talk with him for a few minutes, and then we're also nice name change, Craig, not fooling anybody. So yeah, without any further ado, let's bring on Mike. Hey, what's happening, Mike?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun last weekend, and unfortunately, we could only go for 2 hours. We'd like to go for more. I'm sure we'll have you back on for longer segments, but for now,
Oh, hey, and nice to radio meet you.
Yes, you too.
And Majungasaurus. Yeah, you guys look up what kind of dinosaur that is, because the arms are actually smaller than the T-Rex. What? So T-Rex still has longer arms, at least, than the Majungasaurus. I had to get that out there, but I mad props to the dinosaur.
I was so surprised to see that. We started as a band in 2013, and I've never had anybody ever make that connection before. They usually have to ask, unless you're a paleontologist, usually people are clueless. So that was impressive.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys got into it, but got into it about the origin of that name, or why you wanted to just be the Majungas, the whole bunch of Majungasauruses.
Yeah. We if you listen to our debut album that we did in 2014 called "Hear the Roar," there's actually a tribute to the Majungasaurus called on a song called Majunga, and it's a pretty elaborately detailed account of the Majunga, and it really, I think, explains why we chose that as our band name.
And it was native to China, maybe northern China.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far it traveled. The particular segment that I focused on was just its Madagascar connection.
Really? Oh yeah, huh? Because really, wow, they all went all the way up there. I'm more interested in Coelosaurus myself, which includes T-Rex. And yeah.
And so
I'm obsessed with dinosaurs, so excuse me, you guys. We kind of nerded out right there, didn't we?
Indeed. Now, almost kind of ironic, but they're such short arms. It's amazing that they'd be able to play the guitar licks that you guys play in some of your songs, which we're definitely going to hear. We're going to hear a couple of tracks throughout the night, and but before we do, so what? Now, we obviously talked about this before last weekend, but for those, we've got more people in the audience tonight, some that maybe perhaps were not aware of that episode last weekend. So let's take it back to the roots. So, I mean, as a musician, I imagine, you obviously were involved in other projects before, like you just mentioned, and probably projects before that. But there must have been a big turning point to really go for this is a very specific genre. Now I'll be the first to say it's definitely, you've got a desert rock sound, like I mentioned before, which is one thing I really like, but also the subject material. There must have been, because I'm sure not all musicians out there are, if not accustomed, maybe they're not comfortable with that sort of theory. So you must have shedded some skin, so to speak, to start the journey of this project. And so how did that come about, and when take me back to the moment when you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, so I should start off by saying that there's very little separation between myself and really any of your listeners, and in the sense that number one, I'm a huge fan of this topic. When we're talking about ancient aliens, UFOs, all that stuff. I just happen to be a musician, and lately I've been making projects about it. But to sort of skim through, I guess, the journey that led me to this particular moment, going back to, like I said, in 2013, I started a band called Majungas. And the name Majungas says a lot. Just our quirky sense of humor, and it really comes out a lot in our song lyrics. We've always sort of been a fringe-centered band, but the band split up a couple of years back, and just as we were launching, just as that happened, we were actually launching into what eventually became the Ancient Astronaut Theory project. The Ancient Astronaut Theory was my design, just like, all the other previous song tracks, where I'm sort of the creative source coming up with the music and the lyrics. So it was just, I very quickly, had to transition the band into a studio act to try to finish it. And since I play multiple instruments, I played bass live with the band, but at heart I'm a guitarist and I do the vocals as well. So I was able to finish a lot, but I really needed more touch to it to really make it special. So I collaborated with a musician friend of mine named Max Dombrowski, and we got that thing done in the studio. And that's sort of where we're currently at. Right now, I took that album almost immediately after it was released in September. I think Alien kind of came around in November. So I had like this big splash promotional thing up there. And really the whole response that it got, and the aftermath that followed, just sort of inspired me to set up camp here and do another one. And that's really where we're at right now. We're in the thick of recording our other album, Charioteer Through Wormholes, which we're going to have ready in time this June for Los Angeles.
All right, fantastic. Now, and then another part of the rec, just from a musician standpoint, that I'm really impressed with, that we talked about last weekend as well, is the way the drums were handled. And I don't want to take too much time on this, but I do want to commend you and that God poor soul who had to reverse engineer all those drums. I can't imagine how many hours and how much energy and dedication it took, but man, you couldn't have done a better job on that. And how about you explain how the for the musicians out here, a lot of them listen to this show, so what was the process of the drums that ended up on the actual album, and what is the work that went into it?
Well, I'd have to start with sharing a quote from one of my all-time favorite musicians and influences, is Tom Petty, the late great Tom Petty. Yeah. He emphasized once in his book patience and persistence when it comes to making music, and that's what I needed a lot with this one. Like I said, in the early start of it, when we were launching into this project and I was sort of introducing it to the band, we very quickly disbanded, in that process. So we didn't really have very much. However, we did get enough groundwork done to where the drums, I felt, when I went back and I listened to everything, as I was sort of in shambles here with a, broken up band and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to finish this project. I listened to the drum takes, and we had a really awesome drummer who even though they were technically practiced like demo recordings, I figured if I could get them in the hands of an engineer who knows what he's doing, we could potentially salvage this project. And talk about extraterrestrial powers. Paul Weirdak, engineer out of Chicago here, just did a masterful job with that. And you'd have to ask him technically how he did it. But you're right, it did require a lot of man hours, and I equate it to like somehow reverse engineering the drums, because there was a lot of noise in the background from other instruments and bleed through, so we had to get all that cleaned up to get it, more studio sounding. So he basically somehow reverse engineered the whole album with the drum tracks, I should say, and then just added on my cleaned up versions, that I did sort of on my own accord.
Right on. Yeah. And it's, and like you guys are about to hear, just so well done. I mean, that takes, a lot of work, because I've had to do that on projects before, I've had to do that on projects before, and man, that is it's about as fun as a kick in the teeth. But
so prospective audio people, if you need someone to hire for pulling it together as far as drums and sound editing goes, hire Gigi.
Yeah, and so by the way, I'm putting so there's a link to the website right there, majungas.com, and you can go. They've got the whole first album, Ancient Astronauts Theory, there. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick little break here, and we're going to show you one of their songs, one of my favorites on the record. It's called Intergalactic Invasion. And without any further ado, I'm going to put us all on mute, and let's turn up the music, and let's enjoy this jam for a couple minutes.
In comes the mothership from a distant world. Warning sirens blare from our strongholds. One by one they teleport through the sky. Foreign creatures I could not identify. Welcome to our home, the land of Martians. Do you come in peace? What are your intentions? Boom! Out from their guns, the laser stream ransacked the village, harboring the human beings. The outnumbered Greys could hardly put up a fight, watching their creations disappear from sight. The invaders prepared their vessels for departure, with the human race in their capture. A nuclear bomb was detonated. The Crimson Planet was obliterated.
There you have it. That was Intergalactic Invasion by the Majungas. And yeah, Mike, that's just one of my favorite songs on the track. And the intro, the song, the outro, it was very well. It almost reminds me of some, I don't know, like, I don't know if it was some kind of almost Pink. There's a little bit of Pink Floyd, a little splash of Pink. Yeah, and in a very pleasant way, and but at the same time, extremely original. And it just it's so refreshing for me as a musician. I mean, there's to hear new music that's actually good, first of all, and then second of all, to have the subject matter being related to what we talk about on shows like these. And it's just well done. Well done. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And so just out of curiosity, what out of the tracks on that record, which, was that, was that one of the first songs that came up, or did that come later?
This album I sort of did in a very unorthodox fashion to my normal process. So usually it's a song or a subject matter that really inspires me to get kickstarted with the music making process, and I start to think about, okay, what's the subject matter? How does this make me feel? How should it sound through song? And I usually work in that order. But this one was kind of different. even before I formed the band and I sort of went through this musical creation process, I constructed this concept album. It was just music. There was no lyrics. It was just song. And I just kind of had it sitting around for a while. So, and I felt that there was a connection between all the songs, even though there wasn't lyrics, just musically, I felt that there was a connection between them all. So I kept it as like this little, this is going to be my like ace in the hole, when I have a good story to tell, that I could center as a concept theme.
Yeah, I was just about to say a concept album and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how this one came about. So I don't really remember, it was so long ago, but in terms of which song came in front of the other, but yeah, I had the music all sort of etched out for a long period of time, and gosh, we were a band for 3 years probably before I introduced this album with lyrics to them. Once the light bulb went off and my rising interest in the ancient astronaut theory and ancient aliens and that whole thing sort of heightened. I just had that eureka moment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pair that album that I have sitting around with that as a concept theme, and then I sort of introduced it to the band.
Nice.
Right. And so, man, I wish we had more time with you tonight. We've only got a few more minutes left. So one thing I do want to mention, and I've told you before, is so if you go to the website, majungas.com, which I've linked in the chat, and I'll link it again, you can hear the whole first record there, the Ancient Astronaut Theory record. And I really like how you started off, how you chose the track After the Big Bang as the first track on the record, because that's how I've approached some records I've done in the past, and people have always told us, no, you don't want to start with an instrumental, you don't want to start with something like that. But I've always been like, F you, this is how it needs to start. And I love the way you start it and the way you end it with Extraction Point. It just really, intro, beef, outro, it's almost like a book. You know what I mean? And I really like the way you, the songs are awesome too, but the way that you arrange the songs on the record, I think, is just as well to be commended. Now, speaking of records, you've got a new record coming up, due out in the next month or two. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally different scenario. The other album, Ancient Astronaut Theory, really was more philosophical and somewhat dark, really focused on some big questions like the beginning and birth of our universe and Earth and human beings, and ultimately how extraterrestrials played a hand in all that. But Charioteer Through Wormholes is the main theme that I was going for, was fun and adventurous, and I almost wanted it to feel like you're watching an Ancient Aliens marathon on a Friday night, just time hopping and exploring all of the most, compelling UFO alien cases that sort of have connections to the Ancient Astronaut Theory. So it's going to be really fun. Really what inspired me to do it was the atmosphere that I felt at Alien Con and the whole community out there. It's just such a fun place if you've ever been there. And that was really, this project, I think, is just a tribute to that. And I can't wait to go to LA and share it with them all.
All right. And man, I've got to say, yeah, Alien Con is fantastic. But like we've talked about before, man, we've got to get you to Contact in the Desert. If not this year, definitely next year. And we'll figure out a way to get you guys a little spot on the Saturday night jam session and get you guys up there. And yeah, we'd love to see a live set from all this. Now, so real quick, before we go, okay, so we've got, okay, all right, Tricia, hang in there. We're about to take our next break. So Tricia Eastman, everybody. So real quick before we let you go, give everybody your links, your social media accounts, anywhere they can follow the band and how they can support you and check out your music.
Yeah, so our website is newly revamped. It's majungas.com, and from right there you could stream all of our music for free in its entirety, and there's links to all the digital downloads if you're interested, and also has links to our social media accounts, which I'm fairly active on. So yeah, you could find us there, and I'm going to be out in Los Angeles this June for Alien Con, and also too, if you can't make it out to LA, and you're interested in a physical copy of any of these albums, interesting connection. But David Childress, the co-star of Ancient Aliens, he actually endorses this album for one.
Oh, cool.
There's a written endorsement from him, and he sells physical copies of this at his store, Adventures Unlimited Press. If you go to adventuresunlimitedpress.com and you go to the music tabs in his store, you'll see the Ancient Astronaut Theory album there for sale.
Yeah, and you know what's great? Nice. I mean, there's no better endorsement than that from David Hatcher Childress. But you know what's extra cool about David Hatcher Childress is his old school arcade cabinet collection that he has at his house. I mean, talk about OG status, son. All right, well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll definitely be talking to you more often than not, and hopefully we'll see you at AlienCon as well. And so, yeah, thanks again for coming on. So we're going to take our first break here, and the song leading us into the break is one of Mike's and the Majungas. It's called Panspermia. So enjoy. We'll see you back here on the other side of the break.
The darkest depths of space, cosmic rocks hit the sky. They're seemingly in a race. Shimmering through the galaxy, traveling at incredible speeds, descending upon Earth, intending to spread their seeds. The ingredients of life are packed inside the rocky spheres. Interstellar microbes sprinkled through the atmosphere. Meteoroids, asteroids, comets and small planetoids. Panspermia. Panspermia. Fast forward time by a few billion years, the organisms evolve and active life appears. First came vegetation, then insects and animals. At the bottom of the ocean and in the heart of the jungles. Bacteria, where did you come from? The answer is never clear. Extraterrestrial influence, did the aliens send you here? Meteoroids, asteroids, comets and small planetoids. Panspermia, the building blocks of life.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
From birth, we have been conditioned to conform to what is normal, conditioned to adhere to authority, and conditioned to repeat what has been told to us as truth. I'm Ryan Gable, and here at the Secret Teachings Radio, I've interviewed hundreds of great guests and done extensive unique research into subjects that span from the paranormal and the occult to health, philosophy, and history. I personally have no affiliations or agenda, except to use objective critical thinking in my analysis of every subject discussed, to empower myself with information and hopefully allow you to do the same. If you want to join me, tune into the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, airing live Monday through Friday from midnight to 3 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time on the Fringe FM. For more information, you can visit our website at www.thesecretteachings.info or email me at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Pure Health Defenders, proud sponsor of Shift Happens, producing organic and natural health, wellness, and technology products for people, pets, and plants to thrive alive. Pure Health Defenders, also known as PhD, is powered by C7 technology, scalar energy, atomic technology, and fueled by Sea Miracle Superfoods. 118 nutrients of the purest sea vegetables Mother Earth has to offer. Recognized 100% by people, pets, and plants, delivering the value the same. Everybody deserves a PhD. Be smart about it. Come join the healthiest family today.
Kids, don't drink and park. Accidents cause people. This has been a PSA brought to you by your friends at Shift Happens and The Fringe FM.
Hey guys, do you struggle with low testosterone levels? Symptoms of low testosterone affect your optimum functioning as a man, and this includes loss of motivation, fatigue, and lack of libido. Well, now there's a way to increase your testosterone levels and combat these symptoms, and do it naturally. How? It's called Red Stag for Men, the all-new male enhancement formula designed to do just that. Red Stag is formulated with some of the most frequently studied natural ingredients that are known to raise higher testosterone levels. Higher testosterone levels have been known to increase your drive, as well as reduce body fat, improve lean muscle mass, and boost your energy. Red Stag is taken once daily, yet works all day naturally. So go to myredstag.com right now and get your 60-day supply. Red Stag. Remember, take the red pill. Proven ingredients, proven performance. Go to myredstag.com right now. That's myredstag.com.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
For the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with my co-host, Darren McClure.
That would be me.
And of course, our OG co-host is back in action. None other than Cortana Infinity.
Yes, I am back. And y'all better be ducking up.
Yo, baby. King of the ducks.
A lot of ducking up indeed.
Well, Queen, it's a duck goddess.
Queen of the ducks. The duck goddess. Most high of ducks.
Holy duck, indeed. Now...
Holy duck, Batman! Oh, dear.
And so, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, I was going to start off the show with this and just kind of slipped my mind. But I do want to say, I want to give a big rest in peace to the Internet Somalia Discord. Either you don't know what that is, or you're way too familiar with it. Essentially what it was, I've talked about it plenty of times on this show. We've done several B-side episodes with folks from that Discord channel, and many of them are actually in the chat room tonight and are listening right now. And I know it was kind of a heated, it was just basically what it was an underground sort of Discord channel for a bunch of past and present radio hosts and some listeners as well. And it was just, free for all, no rules. Everybody could say whatever they wanted at any time. I had some of the best times there. I had some of the worst times there, just like everybody else. And here's the thing is, I understand why, and we all knew who ran the channel, and I'm not going to mention his name, but we all understand why he took it down, because it was a train wreck. But at the same time, it was our train wreck, and it was the best testing grounds for, drop of the dime, sarcastic humor on the fly. If you couldn't keep up with these guys, then good luck doing stand-up comedy or anything else. So I had a lot of fun there, and I'm actually pretty sad to see that go. Although we've all fragmented into several other Discord channels, and there are people already talking about what I'm saying now.
Someone play taps.
But seriously, I thought it was a much needed place, and I hope it comes back. And I think there needs to be places like that. And some people took it too seriously; they got too offended, and that's understandable. It's going to happen, but I don't know. I think it's going to be missed, certainly by me. And so I just want to give a formal rest in peace to the very infamous Internet Somalia Discord channel. So anyway, without any further ado, and you need whoopsie daisy, wrong button.
What was that? Who was that? But we know who's on with us, right?
Indeed. And so without any further ado whatsoever, I'd like to bring you the one, the only. Well, hold on. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me give you a proper introduction. So for those, a lot of us know who she is. She's pretty popular in our circle. But just in case you don't know who Tricia is, let me tell you. She's a pioneer in the psychedelic renaissance. Her holistic approach incorporates Eastern philosophy, biohacking, soul retrieval, archetypal mapping, meditation, somatic therapy, shamanism, amongst other things. As a medicine woman, she curates retreats in countries where use is legal with the works of 5-MeO DMT, amongst other substances from the Sonoran Desert, also including toad and iboga. And she has been initiated in the Bwiti traditions of Bwamba Iyano, and received training in Misoko, as well as facilitated the Psycho-Spiritual Iboga program for Crossroads Treatment Center in Mexico. And that's just a light introduction, to say the least. So, Tricia, how are you? Thanks for coming on tonight.
Wow. Thank you so much, Gigi, for that beautiful introduction, and so honored to be here again. Thank you, Cortana. Thank you, Darren. Just really looking forward to what magic we can flow with tonight.
Ooh, I can't wait. It'll be so magical. Also, by the way, happy Beltane, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what else? For all of you real hardcore video game dorks out there, happy Shenmue Day. That's right. I said it. You're welcome. And
he went there.
And you're not welcome. Yes, I had to go. It's Shenmue Day. I can't miss Shenmue Day. So,
all right, Tricia, let's do this.
So, okay, I want to start off here. So, we've, me and Cortana, since the start of the show, we've always been firm believers in the proper use and the healing properties and the mind expanding properties, the objective view of yourself that can be achieved through psychedelics, and that's something we've always wanted to, whenever we can, promote on the show in a proper light
and explore it for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. And so, but here's the thing: is some people, as soon as you say the word psychedelics, immediately they think like, oh, drugs, heroin, crack, blah, 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 blah. So let's clear this air right here and right now, because psychedelics are hardly, you really can't even consider them. It's a whole another league, and it's such a more beautiful, powerful thing that it's such a shame to see that word associated with other like really bad and harmful drugs, when in fact some of your, like on the retreats you do, which we'll get into in a minute, they're curing people of the real terrible addictions of things like heroin and what have you. So what can you say for those that might be skeptical about the use of psychedelics? What are psychedelics, and what is their proper use, and why should we look more into them?
Well, I think that I'm on the same boat as you. Really, psychedelics are a doorway into our subconscious. And when you are born, and even before that in the womb, you are creating a program from the age 0 to age 7 where your subconscious mind is basically being formed. That's when the programming takes place. And if that time period something happened to you that was traumatic, that gets recorded into the subconscious mind, and that program plays forever and ever and ever until you face whatever that is and get aligned with your truth. The thing about psychedelics is they actually are the only substance, although you can get into the subconscious mind through forms of hypnosis, through meditation, through shamanic drumming, visioning work, like vision questing, things like that. But it's very hard for us to get deep in there and do the excavating that we need. And our culture, because we've become separate, because as a culture, when we were colonized, the Western culture, we got away from being in these tribal, communal ways of living. We live in this world where we feel very separate and very alone. And because of that, we have all this trauma. And what the psychedelics do is literally they turn the subconscious inside out. They bring you into yourself. The only thing that a psychedelic substance is going to do, psychedelic means mind manifesting. They are going to give you an amplification of what's already inside you. So in the process of using these psychedelics, the first thing they do is they clean you, they purify you. Within all of us, if you understand Chinese medicine, you have these nadis in the body, or these, nodes or meridians in the body. And basically, when all of those are flowing properly, we are a normal, happy, healthy being. But when those are blocked, which they are, and things like fluoride in water and toxins in the air and toxic emotions clog those up. And basically, these medicines decalcify all that stuff so that we can experience our true essence, which is love. And so the first aspect of the journey is the scary part, because it's actually going in like Roto-Rooter, and it's like cleaning out all the garbage, all the demons, all the skeletons in the closet, and it's bringing it up. And the way the psychedelics work, a lot of people, have had maybe at one point a difficult psychedelic experience. What it's doing is it's almost like, imagine, Cortana, that someone came and cleaned your closet out for you.
Oh, Lord.
And literally, before they tossed stuff out and got rid of it, they showed it to you first. And that's basically what the psychedelic does, is it's basically like, here, you want this old experience? And the way that you say, yes, I want to let go of that thing, I want to toss that old rag out of my closet, is you just surrender and let go. And it literally just does all the cleaning for you. It defrags your hard drive for you.
Nice. And you know what? I was actually wanting to get into talking about blockages. What are they? And as well as, what your process is of healing them through the psychedelic experience.
Well, what's interesting about these blockages that come up is there's two things that they are. One is they're a gift. All of the bad things that happen to us, all the blockages that happen to us, are actually the trail of breadcrumbs that your soul left for you so that you could find your path in your life. And so
I think I have a lot of loaves of bread, actually.
Right? You left a lot. It was like you took the Hansel and Gretel story seriously.
A little bit.
So when these blocks come up, they literally are stored in our bodies. So like physically, the discomfort that we feel in our bodies, the pain that we feel, is usually connected to some form of trauma. And so there are other modalities such as somatic experiencing, which is a trauma modality, Hakomi, which is another trauma modality, where you can very slowly kind of go into those little corners of yourself where that part of yourself that needs love is hiding. And so these things, what happens, I don't want to get too woo-woo, but I think I'm going to have to.
As you want, dude. Like, let's go out there.
Okay, so your body is basically an interdimensional spacesuit, and your soul is basically the we'll just say the video camera. It's the lens in which you experience reality. And so when you are on psychedelics, you're traveling through these different dimensions, and these different dimensions actually are like, imagine like you have this like remote control, like you have a remote control for your TV, but it took you to all these cool dimensions, and that's what your chakras are. And so each of those are different types of reality, different aspects of reality. And what the psychedelic does is it opens up all those chakras. And when those chakras...
point. Just keep going. I've got something to say afterwards, but about the chakras in particular.
So once these chakras open up, this energy that lives in the base of your spine, your kundalini energy, that's your soul right there, that kundalini energy, and it's going up your spine. And as it's going up, you're experiencing, first D reality, second D reality, 3D reality, 4D reality, 5D. So when they're talking about these different levels of consciousness that you hear, people saying, oh, we're going into 5D consciousness, these are aspects of reality that you can experience in embodied form, because your body, your chakras are actually able to experience that by how open they are. And the psychedelic opens those places. And so the highest level of experience is complete transcendence. And that's where you experience this like kind of idea of the drop rejoining the ocean, where you become one with consciousness and you don't have a sense of a body. The issue is that inside those chakras, there's also trauma. And the minute you add a little psychedelic in there, you open up that chakra. It's like a beach ball submerged underwater. It can't do anything but pop to the surface, and you have to look at it. You have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I was about to say when I got excited was that I finally fixed my throat chakra. I know, yes, LOL. My throat chakra. After just years and years and years and years and years of having those kinds of issues because of past life trauma, especially to the form that I had, that my past life had passed on in. And so it kind of carried on to where I've always had, issues with the throat chakra. But after finally getting up the levels of doing psychedelics and stuff, I was finally able to fix it. And yeah, I'm, and it's so it almost is like unlocking abilities. Like, now I have the speak your truth and be more, assertive and all this other great stuff that comes with the throat chakra, and it's pretty amazing.
Well, I have to say I'm giving you a big high five through the radio magic world. And
Yes.
I want to say to all the other people out there that also might have blocked throat chakras, because, you brought this up, and I think there's an opportunity for some healing for everyone that's listening. The throat is where manifestation occurs. And so when you think about your internal world, that's a representation of the moon. And the external world is a representation of the sun. And where the sun and the moon meet, the inner world and the outer world, is through the voice. That's how we communicate. If we're not authentic in our voice, if we're not speaking what's happening inside us, that's boundaries. That's such a big thing with boundaries. Then we're not going to be happy with the reality that's manifesting, and we feel disempowered and we feel unhappy, but we don't realize, because of this block, that we actually are fully responsible for creating the reality that is manifesting in our highest, the one that's most aligned with our heart.
Oh my God, that just sounded like beautiful,
Okay.
and you hit the nail right on the head, especially.
Yes, you did. Now,
Uh-huh.
I'd hate to cut this bit of the conversation short. We've only got a couple of minutes till the next break. Now, we've got several comments in the chat that I really want you to address, Tricia. One of which I won't say who they came from, just for good measure, but in the chat room, you've obviously seen them. Okay, so it's kind of a two-part comment. For one, they say, I think there is some truth to what Tricia is saying, yet I'm not sure psychedelics is the way to go unless it's controlled, which is one of your big things. A lot of what you do are these very controlled retreats that allow people to undergo these experiences under a very controlled environment. But then the part two,
supervision and,
but
medical, right, on staff.
But the part two is, she says, I already said she. She says, I feel like as an adult, we have or should have the ability and development to be able to handle the issues that our mind and body are dealing with, and we don't need psychedelics to do it.
Sorry.
So what
well,
would
we
you,
should.
We should, but there's psychedelics exist for a very in my opinion, just that exact reason. And but anyway, what would you say to that comment? How would you respond to that, Tricia?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One is that a lot of the people that are afraid of this work are truly afraid of surrender. And it's usually because there's some deep underlying trauma. And I'm not saying that specifically about this person, but in general, that it has to do with core safety. Something happened when they were really young, usually on the masculine side, because it usually has to do with father, because father is all about root chakra issues, and that's core safety. And so, the biggest issue that we have in our culture is fear of death, or fear of not being supported. And the only way, and this is why in the indigenous cultures, they would do really big initiations that usually involve psychedelics. like basically near-death experiences. And the reason they did that was because they wanted you to be able to find out within yourself. To find out within yourself, guess what? We're all one. You're safe and supported. The universe is ultimately a friendly place. And, that you're always being taken care of. And so, until you find that out within yourself, you're always going to carry fear. You're always going to carry fear. The psychedelics,
oh my goddess.
They're
Like,
our emergency button, because the truth is this, like whoever, I know you guys are into all the alien stuff. I am too. And many say that, humans were brought here by extraterrestrials, or there were humans here and others were crossbred. And I believe that these plants were brought here as like a, like break glass in case of emergency. Like if things get really bad and you totally forget that you are a divine being connected to source consciousness and love, you can take this and you'll remember your divinity and you'll remember who you are again. And that's
it's like
what
a
it's all about.
spiritual, it's like a spiritual medicine cabinet. You know what I mean? Like, we take an ibuprofen or something even stronger, medication and stuff if we have a physical pain. So, it makes sense that we have these plants around us to be a part of our spiritual medication, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and also we don't need them. We can get there through meditation. We can get there through breath work. We can get there through tantric practices, through, so many different ways. But this is the most direct way and the quickest way. And you have to be careful with them. It's like, I love what you were saying, Gigi, about the safety piece, because, it's like bleach. You want white clothes, you want to keep your whites white, you want to be pure and bright. You have to use bleach to bleach your clothes to keep them looking good. But if you use too much, it's going to put holes in your clothes. You want to be careful. And now with all the research that has come out, we're finding the best practices, beyond set and setting, but all of these extra practices. And when I work with somebody, I go through a rigorous intake process, and I will look at, the three core things I look at that are the most important are the level of trauma, their past mental history, and what their experience is already with psychedelics, and oh my God, my brain today. And their spiritual practices. So for instance, if someone comes to me who's never done psychedelics, they've never meditated before, and they've got a lot of trauma, they're probably not going to be a good candidate. But I look at this like meter. Imagine if you took the metric of those three core things and you're like, okay, well, they're a little bit ahead in the meditation category and spiritual practices, but maybe less experienced. But because they have a lot of that, they're going to do fine. And so that's how you can make a determination whether someone is a good candidate for this work.
Yeah, and
nice.
I think that's a good point. There are certainly some people that are just whatever you want to attribute to, they are not they're not ready for something like that, or they're not in the right. There's certain work I think although I don't find it to be very many people, there are some exceptions to where there needs to be some work done before they can really undergo this experience, because we've all heard of the bad trip and we've all had them too. But oftentimes I have been, in fact, one of the most appreciative, I'll just say spirit molecule experiences I had was one of the scariest moments of my life. But what it forced me to realize and how it put me in check, I'm so grateful to have had that experience. And it's not all going to be feathers and flowers every single time, but that's the point. Is there sometimes it is, though. Sometimes it is, and especially when you're with like-minded people and you're all you're all undergoing the experience for the same reasons. It can be a very enlightening experience, and you can really unlock some knowledge of not only yourself, but also this universe that is otherwise, unless you want to go meditate under a tree for 80 years, is otherwise pretty much inaccessible. So, and you know what? I really don't like doing this, but you know what? We have to take a commercial break.
We do, and we're on a roll, so...
I know,
Take us out
I
for
wish
a
there
little
was
bit.
a way to not have to do this, but we do. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Tricia Eastman, and we're talking about the psychedelic renaissance. And we'll be back here in just a few short minutes. Don't go anywhere.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting, thefringe.fm, Napa Valley, California, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Tired of talking about the weather? No, Shift. Well, Shift Happens is here to fulfill your desires as you reach that point in life where you crave tantalizing conversation about reality, ufology, the occult, and the conspiracies within, while simultaneously finding yourself desperately in need of your very own theme music, which we've got plenty of that too. So be sure to tune in to Shift Happens every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM. Because the weather sucks, and you need some theme music.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
This is Ronnie LeBlanc, author of Monsterland, Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs, and you're listening to Shift Happens on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
And we're back with the Fringe FM. This is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with my co-host, Darren McClure.
That would be me.
And, of course, our OG co-host, Cortana.
Cortana, where are you, sweetheart?
Cortana.
Oh, I was on mute. Perfect.
All right.
And there she is.
I love that knob. All right. All right, we are back. We're here with Tricia Eastman now. I've got to say, there are so many, comments that are happening in the chat room that are raising great questions about the subject at hand, and a lot of these I want to address, but there's so many of them. So I'll try to pick and choose throughout the next little while. Although really, and you know how I'm talking about in the chat room. If you want to call in towards the end, I think maybe we could we can kind of get through this a little bit quicker and more expressively. So we'll see if we have time for that. Well, we'll start off with this. Now, I really do want to get into all the retreats you do and all the work you do all around the world, Tricia. But real quick, let's tee off this segment with this. So, and I think this is a pretty good, healthy question to ask. And it is this that comes from the chat room. Let me turn the music down. Did the world really raise a bunch of folk that are so out of touch with themselves that we need to eat mushrooms as a part of our path to find inner strength again? What would you say to that?
I think that we have truly gotten separate from love, separate from our hearts, separate from each other as a culture. We spend more time on our cell phones than we do, actually connecting with other human beings. And we spend all this time on social media, but we don't actually connect. And when you look at it on a, like if you were to take an EEG brain scan and scan like the brain waves of people that are in like a consciousness that is of connection and oneness, it tends to be a gamma frequency. And the gamma frequency is something that most humans very rarely actually experience. You might experience a spike in it when you're in nature and you see a really beautiful sunset. You'll have a spike in gamma. Or when you are on Tinder and you're flicking through, you're swiping, and then all of a sudden you see a really beautiful woman or a really beautiful guy, you'll have a spike in gamma. And that's like that feeling of connection. We have very little of that. The only people that traditionally right now are testing high in gamma frequency are like meditators that have spent like 20, 30, 40, 50 years in practice. Now, substances such as 5-MeO-DMT instantaneously open up the gamma frequency, allow you to remember that essence of connection, which is the opposite of addiction. It's the opposite of, like, if you look at the studies of like the Rat Park studies, I'm forgetting the name of the doctor, but he did a study where he had like these bottles of cocaine water, and he had one, regular rats in a cage, and of course they drank the cocaine water until the cows came home. That's what they got addicted to it. But then he decided to create this like rat city, and it was like all these fun little like tunnels and stuff, and he put a bunch of rats together, and they're playing, having a good time. None of them touched the cocaine water. So, really the issue with our culture is disconnection, and these medicines actually do create new neural networks in the brain. They create the state of consciousness that allows us to remember that, but it creates these new neural pathways which are accessible again, and with use of them, over a period of time, people can achieve the states of consciousness that someone who, has a 50-year meditation practice can achieve.
All right. Okay. Very well said. Now, there is... I'm trying to pick and choose here.
Yes, the levels. We are just kind of grooving right on, because I actually wanted to talk about the levels that you kind of ascend when you do psychedelics, multiple times over the years and stuff. And it's almost like a video game in a way, is that you kind of ascend to higher and higher heights depending on what you do, especially if you work with the knowledge that you gain from it after you're done tripping, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about the top training programs in the world for the top people, like the Navy SEALs, they always put them in a simulation, to simulate a specific condition that allows for them to have the ability and coping skills to be able to perform. And they find statistically that they perform better. And that's basically what the psychedelics are doing. They're putting you in a simulation program where you're able to work out certain things in an amplified state of consciousness and not lose your shift, and,
exactly.
And you're able to basically perform better in life because of it. You're able to handle the normal stressors of the outside world because of it. And so, like if you look into the studies of like ancient mystery schools, they talk about the chakras being the 7 seals, and they basically
wow, that makes sense.
Unlock different levels of power, like the tree of life. They unlock these different layers of power. And if you haven't done the work, you just can't get there. So if you haven't actually looked at the lessons that you chose to come here and learn as a human, then you are just going to keep learning them over and over and over again. And so when you look at the map of consciousness and you look at where we are at, we live in the solar system. The solar system is basically all the chakras up to the solar plexus. And if you look at astrology doesn't go past the sun. And so when you look at all the archetypal behaviors that are happening within our culture, it's all like, Jungian psychology is based off of this, and astrology is based off of this, and I Ching is based off of this. This is like, it's been studied for thousands and thousands of years. That's what we're doing, is we're basically acting out these dramas based on the alignment of energy. But once you transcend into Buddhic consciousness, which is the heart, which is a layer that you can travel to, a level you can travel to in psychedelics, you go into the higher dimensions, and that's where you access the Pleiades, and you access Sirius, and all these, galactic logos that are more love-centered and more balanced, and have a higher flavor of intelligence than you normally encounter here on this planet.
So what I'm wondering is, I don't know how to phrase this, but like, okay, so say you do run into a block, even if you've like done so much work and did a lot of psychedelics, with shamans and other highly spiritual people, but there's just a block in there and you can't locate it and you can't just lodge it out. Like, if you were on a psychedelic and that was your intent to try and find this block, what would you do?
Well, there's a couple of things
if you have any idea
related to that. One is that we didn't come to this planet to heal ourselves. Like, if you just have the intention of doing psychedelics to heal yourself, you're just going to manifest more healing for yourself. Like, we don't need to look for the things that are wrong with ourselves. Like, we're whole and perfect. The most important thing to look for in any healing work that you do is, what is the highest expression of yourself? What is the thing most aligned with your heart that you need to be creating in the world? What is that thing? And once you align with that, like, the blocks come up as a natural side effect of the process. So, the truth is, any part that is a block is a disconnection from your heart. It's a part that needs some light shined in there and needs you to love it. That it probably, if it keeps coming up over and over and over again, is something that you're just not willing to accept and surrender to. And so
wow, that kind of hit me
deeper.
Wow. Oh, wow. This is highly relevant, Gigi, isn't it? Like, I mean, for me it is. Just, wow.
Yeah.
We are grooving along.
Yeah. And, okay, so here's something. So, as probably everybody that's listening to this show has probably seen or been aware of, Graham Hancock was recently, which,
Love him.
by the way, may or may not be coming on this show in a couple of months. And I look forward to that. And not only that, for those of you in the Arizona area, he's actually going to be out here in Sedona on the 15th or 16th with, I want to say Rick Strassman is going to be there as well. Yeah, no, he is going to be there. And it's one of his first public appearances in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw him is what, CITD 2016, wasn't it? When he was all out and about.
Yeah, well, for Graham too, but Rick Strassman hasn't done any sort of public anything in years. And but here's what I want to get your take on, Tricia, is so over at the Imperial College of London, Rick Strassman, amongst a few others, have developed a technology to essentially, from what I understand, essentially what it does is it allows you to because when you do DMT, it's like a 5, 10, 15-minute long journey, and then you're back. They apparently have invented a technique, or they refer it as a technology, to where you can actually stay there for as long as you want. And the intention of this, and here's what I think is the coolest part, is because I've had, well, let me not ramble. The intention is to map the territory of this other realm that we all seem to go to when we go through a DMT experience. And I've had so many, I can't tell you, I'll have to, just to demonstrate, I'll have to tell you a quick story, which is...
you and your stories, Gigi.
Shush. So there were...
Oh, don't you tell me what to do. Anyway.
So there were two instances, I'll just label it to one because the other one was the same, where me and my friend were just sitting down and exchanging, our experiences with the spirit molecule, or DMT. And I started to tell the tale of what happened to me on one of, which I referenced earlier, one of my most fearful, I guess you would call, bad trip of all time. And part of that bad trip, and what you hear constantly about DMT experiences, is people are encountering beings and beings, and there's a couple of which I've encountered multiple times, and one of which I just started to describe, like, man, let me tell you, he was completely dark, he was overwhelming, and before I could even finish saying, he filled in my sentence, and he said, let me guess, he had very square shoulders and a very square head. And I was like, whoa, what? Like, yes, that's exactly what he's like. Yeah, I saw that too, because he already knew the experience I was telling him. Like, he had the same experience with that same being that I have had, which just from my own personal experience means that whoever or wherever we are encountering in these DMT experiences, much, and I'm sure much the same for ayahuasca and what have you. And
yeah,
so
I would
here
like
comes,
to know about these beings.
Well, here comes this study, or this project, rather, at the Imperial College of London, where they figured out a way to extend the amount of time that you can stay there. Instead of limiting it to 15 minutes, there's this, don't know if it's a slow drip thing. I don't know how they're doing it, but Rick Strassman's behind it, so there's some legitimacy here. And their whole intention is to map out the land, so to speak. Have you heard about this? What do you think about this?
Yeah, so, I've heard different stories about it, and from what I understand, and my partner is a psychologist, Dr. Joseph Barsulia. He's worked for MAPS, which is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Research, and he's also published about 9 papers on 5-MeO-DMT and Ibogaine as well. And there's many different ways of administration. And one of the things that, he's done in his research is really looking at what are the potential applications in a clinical environment for healing with some of these medicines. And getting into the whole story of whether they should be in that environment or not is a whole nother ball of, that's a whole nother Pandora's box to open. And but from what I understand, it's being done, I think, intermuscular, which means that it's kind of like almost like a drip, if I'm not mistaken, where you're receiving a small amount of it over time.
So
now,
like ketamine? Ketamine treatments?
Like ketamine.
Kind
and
of, right? Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is that, ayahuasca is basically the same thing. Ayahuasca has the MAOI in it, and that basically keeps it in the body longer. It makes it so that it sustains the experience. So you can do things like that, similar to that with ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. However, when you look at like the subconscious world, these worlds that that people are visiting and seeing the same thing, that's the same place that we go to when we dream. It's just that most people don't remember their dreams, and basically the act of soul retrieval is pulling in those pieces and kind of putting them together to basically build your own map of consciousness, and eventually you have the entire cosmos inside you, where you can literally, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through, altered states of consciousness with psychedelics, be able to explore that entire space through your understanding and exploration. But what's interesting about the whole thing is it doesn't feel to me like it does for the sake of research, but for, I think, any human being in general to be in that space for that period of time, just to me seems not really a productive thing, because the whole idea with these experiences is, the process of alchemy is you take the fixed into unfixed, and then you fix it again. And so it's Negrado, which is the fixed. And that's, oh my God, Lead Planet. Is that Saturn? I can't remember. But anyway,
I believe it's Saturn.
Saturn, and then Albeida is Venus, and that's going up into the light. That's going inside yourself, exploring. But then the Rubeida is Mars, which is taking action. And so the inner alchemy process, the process in which we are designed to live as humans, is that process. It's the idea of the sun and the moon coming together, and through that union, that alchemy taking place. And so, to me, as a thing to do, like for spiritual exploration, it doesn't make sense to me from the framework that I understand. But for the research for this college, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, and what I was gonna
go ahead.
So continuing off of the spiritual aspects, like versus the taking it in a more clinical setting, like at a doctor's office or something. So could there be like a difference? Well, there's going to be an obvious difference, but are there like certain rituals that within the ayahuasca tradition that you do, as well as perhaps even that you do before or during a psychedelic trip?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, number one, is having the right space to do the medicine, that's set and setting. But then you set up what's called the morphogenic space, and the morphogenic space is the spiritual field. And so what that is, you know, typically like in the Native American tradition, or in Bwiti, which is the tradition that I'm initiated, or whether it's the moon dance lineage, I'm also a moon dancer. You can do the 4 directions, or you do some type of ritual where you're opening up the sacred space. You're calling in the sacred spirits, you know, some type of prayer and ritual. And you're also creating a boundary. So you're like, this bubble, like stuff that doesn't belong in here isn't getting in. You know, you're creating that, you know, and in like, even in magic and ritual, you know, this idea of casting in certain areas. And then usually the way that, you know, I've always done it, and the way that I've learned in different traditions is you usually have an intention. You can either have one core intention that you're going in and working with, you know, you tune into yourself and your soul and you decide, or usually I have people do 3 intentions. And so, you know, that could be mind, body, spirit, or whatever those 3 areas of your life that you really want to work on.
I'm like taking notes right now for my next trip, because I'm like, 3 intentions. All right, let's do this. Because there's some blocks that I have that I'm like, oh no, we got to like lodge these out of my heart and soul, because man, it's some intense shift.
Me too as well. And I talked to Tricia earlier. Like I'm really, you know, I need to go on one of her retreats, which we have not really had.
We need to go, more like it, official Shift Happens trip.
And we should both go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So so we gotta take a break right now. But real quick, one point I did want to add earlier, that we're talking about the Imperial College of London and what they're doing. One thing I would say that I imagine is probably well, here's the thing: is when it comes to mapping this other realm that we all seem to sharedly travel to under, whether it's DMT or ayahuasca. I think the reason why they're using this prolonged, and they've kind of expressed this too, is that you know, because kind of like you mentioned, you can basically do the same thing with ayahuasca, because let's not all forget that DMT is one of the key ingredients to ayahuasca. It's very much the same thing. It's just that in the form of taking ayahuasca, it extends it for hours and hours, almost close to a day in some cases. But here's the thing: is you can't pull out of it whenever you want. So that's why at this college they're using DMT, because they want to keep people there as long as they can and explore as much as they can. But as soon as it gets a little over, you know, it gets a little too much, then they're able to stop the feed and pull them out, which otherwise would not, which, you know what I mean, which wouldn't be possible with ayahuasca. So I imagine, I've heard, and I kind of agree with, you know, I think that's a better way to go. It's a safer way to go about it, just, you know, by being able to pull them out whenever the going gets too rough, rather than just sending somebody on a 24-hour void and saying, good luck.
Lord.
You know what I mean? But anyway, okay, so with that, once again, unfortunately, we do have to take a commercial break here. But we will pick up where we left off. And
I got something to ask after we get back here.
Yeah, and we've got so many questions. And once again, this is another one of those shows where 2 hours is just not enough.
I know, we need like 5.
Yeah, we're going to have to do something about that. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Shift Happens here on the Fringe FM. I'm your host, Gigi, along with my co-host, Cortana, and my other co-host, Darren McClure. And we're here with Tricia Eastman talking about the psychedelic renaissance. We'll be back here in just a few short minutes. Don't go anywhere.
I've got a secret I cannot say. They might have movement to give it away.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of the Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube. at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
All right, man, this is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead. And listen to Shift Happens on The Fringe FM. Fridays, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. Cortana out. Quack.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting, thefringe.fm, Napa Valley, California, Little Rock, Arkansas.
This is Tom Sherman. Down here at Banning College, we're promoting a blood drop. Oh, shit.
Welcome to the Sound of America. You're listening to AM 580. Lay back, the sheep, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb.
Throw Adam the apple. Don't throw me so to my face! Cannot be saved. Follow me and Good to know that he's walking with me. Big rock as a weapon. The devil is a black stone. True. Into the fog. Let him cast the first stone. Jesus. And you have fallen into the love that needs to be designed by the Lord. Hallelujah, y'all. I want to hear a couple of hallelujahs.
for the Fringe FM. This is Shift Happens. I'm your host, GG, along with my co-host, Darren McClure.
Oh, that would be me, of course.
And
just
of course,
in the background.
And of course, our OG
just
co-host.
in the background.
Yeah, kind of just chilling tonight, but he is here nonetheless. And then, of course, we've got our OG co-host,
What?
Empress Cortana. That's right. She's back. And, all right, so let's get back to... now, Cortana, I know you wanted to... I do want to get into... So we got about 20 minutes left. I do want to get into, the retreats and all...
Well, it'll fade into all of it. I was going to ask...
okay.
Is that... So, Tricia, on the same topic that what we left with before the break... so how the clinical studies are just doing DMT and the retreat studies, practices are doing ayahuasca. Now, so I've been thinking, is the DMT dimension different than the ayahuasca dimension?
Good question.
No, it's all the same. It's actually, it's and I should say yes, actually. So, typically in these medicines, there's different parts of the journey, and it really depends on the medicine you're working with, the person, like the facilitator, and what their experience level is. Like, an ayahuasca shaman versus what I would call a yoga-wasca, like a yoga teacher who just says, I'm going to serve some ayahuasca to everybody.
Yeah.
You're going to...
Or a doctor,
or a doctor.
with the DMT cases and the ketamine cases.
Yeah, because in the medicine, there's multiple things that you're working with. One is the spirit of the medicine. One is the lineage that, the medicine facilitator is working within their relationship with that spirit. And then the third is usually the music and for instance, in the ayahuasca tradition, they have the Icaros, and the Icaros are like little surgeons, and they're the songs of the plants, and they basically come in and they clean you out. And so...
that sounds adorable, actually. I could just see all these cute little plants just going throughout the body and the spirit body.
Yeah, just
kind of like Fantasia,
kicking out all the bad guys. And so there's different realms you can go into, and it really depends on where you're at. But typically, when you see entities, when you're experiencing other beings, it tends to be more in like the astral realms. In the higher realms, you can experience like the essence of an energy that may not necessarily have form. And, that's like higher dimensional beings. And then you can get into the, and I sometimes even experience it as like a galactic logos, which means it's like a planetary intelligence. And there's even like ashrams of consciousness that are like schools that you can go into and just like receive in complete transmission of light codes, which is basically like thousands of years worth of information just uploaded into you, and you just know it. And learning can exist like that in the higher realms, and I've experienced it personally. And then, you also have just like the pure consciousness of just dissolving. And many times, like on the DMT, especially, like depending on what level you're in, sometimes you see beings, but sometimes you just see sacred geometry. And it's almost like, in the movie The Matrix, where he's like looking at the screen and he can see like the little codes, and he's like, oh, that's a brown-haired person. And that's
blonde. Brunette, redhead.
Yeah, it's like that. Like you see the sacred geometry, but you're like, oh, that's my brother over there, and there's my grandmother that died, and all these different things. But you don't see like them in like a physical form.
Yeah, because I recently did DMT, and I actually came across a gorgeous gorgeous, gorgeous, like rainbow crystalline white dragon the first time I took a hit. And then the second time I took a hit, of course, I met the wonderful duck goddess. And seriously, you guys, like seriously, I saw the duck goddess. She appeared to me and I did a sketch of the duck goddess too, like, because I had that in front of me, like the craft table, and I just did it while on, DMT. Granted, it wasn't like, it was enough to get me to be seeing things, but I was, however, on another psychedelic as well. So I didn't want to push my, my luck there and get, be entirely too out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. The different beings that exist. I mean, when you think about ducks, like there is a dimension that exists where ducks are a highly evolved consciousness, and they,
Yes.
have superpowers and things like that. Just like there are insectoid aliens that are like giant praying mantises, and I've seen them. And there's, all these different types of beings that have ascended in consciousness, just like we humans have, gone from at least from what we understand in our science, the science that we know, that we were primitive beings that also developed a higher mind.
Mm-hmm.
Question: when you're in this ayahuasca space, does the spirit seem to like the music, the drumming? Do you bring that with you? Chanting? I'm just curious about your methodology.
So you mean, so just want to make sure I heard you properly. Does the spirit like it? Is what you're asking? So, typically the music and the sound, it has to do individual with the experience. And, sometimes the drumming, or sometimes doing different sounds, like sometimes I even do tones with my own voice. Almost like, when you think about like the throat singers, like the things like that. Yeah. Sometimes those sounds are really potent for clearing energies. And many times, a lot of the indigenous languages, like if you look at our language, it's very primitive. I mean, it's very far away from like source consciousness and love. But the older languages are very close to light language. So a lot of the languages that people talk about, like channeling.
Well, to
aliens.
me, it's about the resonance, and that we're really all just resonant. We're resonant beings. If we remember that in our lives, to just always make sure we rub up to people that we're always rubbing up with, good feelings, and know that resonance will bounce back to us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a powerful thing to realize that we're resonant beings, and being in that space is, and talking to the ayahuasca goddess, is she digging the drum beat,
Yeah. Is the music good? All right, let's go, kind of a
thing.
Is
the music good? What's the tunes we're bringing along here? What channel we tuning in?
Exactly.
Well, they love, like, think of it this way, like all spirits, they don't eat food. They don't get to do the cool stuff that humans do. But the one thing that they can receive is gratitude. So when they see you healing, when they see you like in gratitude and giving thanks, and when they see you, approaching your life in a sacred way, like having reverence, and the way, I hate to use the word prayer, but it's basically like,
communion.
It's an orientation.
Everything we do is prayer. Everything we do is prayer all day long. And if we don't pay attention to that, we're really missing the big lesson of this lifetime. So take every opportunity to, just wash that dish in a prayerful way. Just be in the moment and realize what all that's going on, and laugh.
Wow.
Yes, and that's exactly what the medicine wants. That's what the medicine is here for, is to remind us that everything is sacred. There's nothing that isn't sacred, and to have that reverence. And so if you return to that state through the music and through the drumming, then of course it's going to be ecstatic. It's going to love that.
And that makes so much sense with doing everything with reverence too. Yeah, and it being a prayerful thing. And you know, as a Western society, we often associate, oh, prayer, like praying to Jesus and getting on your knees and, you know, folding your hands and doing this type of thing. But I mean, even just walking around and thinking about, you know, your higher self or the deity that you worship, and just like a walking meditation or anything that you do, you know, it's making
Love
that divine
that
energy.
walking meditation. You know, that Gigi and I both, you know, kicked back with that, with the whole surfing and skating, you know, concept.
Right?
Yeah.
It's almost
You know,
like
that-
being in the zone too. You know, it's that in the zone moment. It almost seems like a form of prayer as well. But anyway, yeah.
It's like meditation.
Gigi, speaking of in the zone moment, like, so how do we get? You were gonna ask something to Tricia before, like, because we're running out of time, and I need like 2 more hours to talk to Tricia. Oh my God.
Yeah, and once again, I said it before the show, and I'll say it
It's
again.
time for another back
This is-
channel.
Yeah,
you know,
this
you gotta
is
go.
just...
You gotta keep on recording. Hit the record, kids.
I mean, this is just one of those shows where I wish we had more than 2 hours, but unfortunately we don't. But for certain, before you go, Tricia, we definitely, because you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Wow,
You've got,
yes.
You've got, first of all, let's talk about the ancestral art project that you have at Burning Man coming up.
Ooh, pretty.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I received a really strong message and I've never done anything like this before, that I needed to bring some elders to Burning Man. And so bringing 2 tribes from Africa, one from Ghana and one from Gabon. And we are going to create a whole program, which, you know, just getting them, like getting everything arranged and get them to the playa is insane. Like logistically, like visas, you know, like sleeping arranged. I mean, everything.
It's an undertaking, but oh my God, that's so going to pay off. Yeah, maybe it might even like bring some more sacredness back into Burning Man, because well. It's strayed a little bit, I guess. That's what I hear anyway.
Yeah, I think that Burning Man's ready for this. I feel like it's growing up, and I feel like this is going to be something really special, sharing ritual, sharing stories, sharing sacred music, dance, fire dancing, drumming, and we're not going to be doing any medicine, of course, on the playa. We're going to just be sharing all of the aspects of the tradition that don't involve the psychedelic, psychoactive plants. But we're going to bring the medicine with us, with our hearts and our spirits. So I'm really excited to be part of that.
Oh my God, dude, Gigi and Darren, like, oh my God, like, what if we, like, somehow the Duck Goddess manifested tickets to Burning Man? That would be so cool, because I would love to be involved with that and meeting the tribal peoples of Africa.
Yes, come, please.
Don't believe you can't do it.
Praise Duck.
Don't believe you can't manifest it. You can do it. And remember, you got to treat and move your feet. Don't just sit around and go, oh, yeah, I'm praying for everything, without getting your butt up the couch and go get a job and do something, because that job just might make something else manifest for you.
Yeah.
So don't be lazy with your manifestations, people. Make it happen. Do something with your lives.
Yeah, you gotta. Yes, very well said. Very well said.
Speaking of doing something, so your retreats, like the last 5 minutes, we gotta, like your retreats, what's that about? Where is it? How can we go to it?
Wow. Well, the retreats for me, like I'm like, I feel like the healing arts and the ceremonial arts is such a big part of my life. And I love to be able to create an experience that people are like, wow, that was the most incredible experience of my life, by having the most incredible location, the most incredible food, healers, the most amazing medicine, and just having it in a well-held container with lots of integration and like yoga and ecstatic dance and like just, lots of surprises too. So I do one once a year in Ibiza, where we, even at the last day, like this retreat, which is in June, which is already full, unfortunately, but I rented 2 catamarans and we're taking boats out to the Izvedra vortex, which you can only get to by boat. So after we've done all this like amazing medicine work, we're going to go and hang out on this, on these boats and take a boat trip out to this really incredible vortex. And my retreat in Mexico is in Tulum is once a year as well, and that's actually still have space for that one, and that's going to be in January. I always do it on during New Year's, and
something to plan for.
I rent out the sacred land in the Cien Con biosphere, which is completely secluded, and we literally are doing 5-MeO DMT on the beach. It is so private, so beautiful, amazing food. Sweat lodge. We're doing sweat lodge. We're doing ecstatic dance. We're doing integration work.
Sweat lodge. You've got my attention. I sweat. I try to sweat every Sunday. So
really awesome.
You had me at hello 2 hours ago. So
every Sunday now, it's gangster. Like, wow.
I'm a member of the Morningstar Lodge. It's in Orange County.
Amazing. I'll have to come sweat with you sometime. I'm a moon dancer, so one of the medicines that we work with in moon dance is the temazcal. And so whenever once a year I have to go and do an initiation outside of Mexico City, and part of it is they make you fast on water for 4 days, and you have to do 2 temazcals a day. It's pretty insane.
Wow, good goddess, 4 days without
if
food?
Anyone ever out there in the radio land, if you get a chance to go to a sweat, say yes. I mean, because I've invited a lot of people in my lifetime, and most people say, what? So if somebody invites you, go. It's an experience. It's like, I kind of feel like I'm climbing into a little UFO. Because it really does. Going to a ceremony and singing the songs and being with the stones and my brothers and sisters in a sacred way in the circle of life. It is such a profound experience.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. Once again, I'd hate to do this, but you know what? We are out of time.
We are.
So, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, please follow. You can keep up with everything Tricia Eastman over at psychedelicjourneys.com. Are there any other social media links or tags that you would like to?
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Last minute thought, right? Okay, Tricia. Oh my God. You need to do a documentary on this stuff, because it sounds like you're like on all of these adventures aside from doing this and administering this medicine too. Right. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Thank you. So. Yeah, I'm writing a book, and I can't share the title, but hopefully it will be I'll have more news for you guys soon, but it'll have all the good stuff in it, like everything that I can fit in a book. And my Instagram, if you love psychedelic art, which I do, Psychedelic Journeys on Instagram.
Nice.
All right, there we go.
What a beautiful night.
Thank you.
And Tricia and Darren.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you, Tricia, for so much for being
great
on
show.
Yeah. And I wish we had more time. Perhaps we can do a part 2 sometime in the future. And I'm sure we'll have you back anyway. And plus, like I mentioned before, I am going on one of those retreats. You count on it. You count on it. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Shift Happens here with the Fringe FM. The show is hosted and produced by yours truly, GG. Co-hosts tonight were Darren McClure. You can follow him on Twitter at Neon Surfer. And of course, our OG co-host, Cortana Infinity. You can follow her.
Duck up!
Duck up indeed. You can follow her at Empress Cortana on Twitter. Associate producer is Brad Harris. Special shout out to Eric Awakening Man for all of his roaming reporting he does, and also special shout out to Dennis Koch for all of his promotional goodness that he does
Thank you.
for this show. And of course, as always, all blames and faults go to Fran. That's right, for hashtag Fran's fault. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in, but don't go too far, because coming up next is Lighting the Void with Joe Roop. All right, folks, we'll see you next week with Carrie Cassidy. All right.
Remember, kids, don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead.
Bye-bye.
Duck up.
Bye-bye.